In the beginning, we had, in the process of, I guess, the first year of putting the project together, we studied essentially 4 sites in the Silverdale area. And so the project didn't get off the ground as quickly as I guess we all anticipated in the beginning, because we had to find the right spot.
Well, we were looking at county land, and so we knew we were going to have their approval. The county, however, was very cooperative. I mean, the Parks Department was fabulous. They were very open and drove us around. Chris Gears, the Parks Director, drove us around to several different sites and basically said, you know, you almost could have your pick.
And there were infrastructure issues at certain sites, and there were planned ideas in other sites, and so we had to go through, you know, gosh, we went through a site that was actually in Silverdale where the Silverdale Skateboard Park is now. We went to a site up in the Island Lake area. We went to the site at Fairgrounds. We went to the Old Mill site in Silverdale, and then we landed on this site, which was just a gulch in the ground of an old bioswale that was never really being used. Storm drainage ditch is really what it was, and I think that it seemed to be challenging for certain, but I felt from the very beginning this was the ideal spot for the park, and I'm so happy that it landed there. It was fun. I think that the Rotary Club, and I've told them this, is that here they are, an upstart club, you know, only 2 years old, and probably putting together a project that is, you know, unheard of in the annals of Rotary. Maybe I've told them they were a little crazy because they had absolutely no idea how they were going to pull off their side of this thing, and they just jumped in, whereas a lot of other Rotary clubs would be, well, do we have enough money to do this, and you know, we have to raise this and we have to do that before we can do that, and they just jumped in with full feet, and a lot of that has to do with Chris Ryland.
The Veterans Memorial started out quite a few years ago as an idea. I mean, it was found that there was no Veterans Memorial in Kitsap County, which was really a surprise to everyone. So the first step was just trying to find a location, and we worked together with the Parks Department looking at possible sites and then just separate real estate pieces that potentially we might have to purchase to build a memorial. Our club is only 4 years old, not quite 4 years old. At the beginning of our formation of the club, there was a lot of choices to do service projects, and that's when this came up. It was just, you know, potentially doing a Veterans Memorial. And so then it went from an idea to just kind of exploring different sites, and once the idea continued to grow, we realized that this was going to be a major real estate development. Our membership's about 25 people, and so we needed a lot more commitment from outside sources besides just us, and that was when home builders got involved as well, as far as on the construction side. So Rotary was going to be the side that would do a lot of the coordination, start to prepare some of the budgets, look for the property. And at the time that I took over as president, some of those decisions had already been made, and the site was selected to be at Waterfront Park.
How I got involved with the memorial. When we first started as a club, there was discussion about what projects we wanted to do. At that point, we were just meeting. We would meet on Tuesday mornings, have breakfast, and talk about issues in the county and things that we wanted to do. We participated with a couple of other clubs in some projects that they did. For example, the Rotary Garage Sale and so forth. And that was fulfilling, but it really wasn't anything that we had initiated or we could call our own. And so we were really looking for, throwing it out, what kind of projects do we want to do? And one of the members mentioned a Veterans Memorial, and that just sort of struck a nerve with me, and just maybe a nerve isn't the right word, but it really kind of hit home in terms of, you know, we really don't have anything. And I found it very ironic that here we are, a very strong military town. We have, you know, 3 different bases here, and a long history of military support, and yet there's nothing here to say, hey, we appreciate what you've done. And so I kind of started looking into that, and had a lot of discussions with some other members, and we decided to investigate doing a Veterans Memorial. So right from the very beginning. I think for me personally, where it hit home is I typically like to work early in the morning, and I was looking on the internet, and imagine that, being an internet provider, and I was doing some research on memorials, thinking, well, there's got to be a bunch out there, and I couldn't find very many, and there was very little mention of them. There was a couple in Olympia, Washington, and then there was very few just scattered across the United States. And when I was looking at them, it was sort of kind of disappointing to find that their memorials were a flagpole and a small monument, which is fine, but there really wasn't anything of significance. There was only a couple I found that really did something for the veterans. And what it was typically done for was a specific era or a specific conflict. And so we found things for Vietnam, for World War II, and different conflicts like that. But there was nothing that really said to all veterans, whether they were in a conflict or not. Somebody that gave their time and put time in to serve the country in one capacity or another, thank you. And so that's kind of how the ball got rolling, and how we started to form the idea of having a memorial that kind of served all people.
In the very beginning, when we got the proposal of the partnership, Mike Hancock was the president of the Rotary Club at that time, and Bill Wright was, I think, the arm that was going to handle the Veterans Memorial. He is currently the president of their club. So we started with Mike and Bill. Chris Ryland was very, very involved. She became the president actually as the second year of the project. And Ron House, as we got started on the project, another Rotary member, and actually also an HBA member, he became kind of the liaison for the Rotary as we actually got into construction. Those were the major players that I worked with during the project.
The first time I heard about the memorial was about, I'm thinking, 2.5 years ago, perhaps. I was doing some consulting work for a contractor in Silverdale, and one of his staff approached me and made reference to a meeting that was going to be held that evening at the Home Builders Association, along with some members of the Silverdale Sunrise Rotary Club. And he asked me if I'd be interested in attending. And knowing he knew that I was a veteran and was once a Rotarian with the East Bremerton Rotary Club. I was there for about 11 years. And then shifted jobs, went to Seattle, and was out of Rotary for a few years. But anyway, I attended the meeting, and John Armstrong was there, who I knew from Rotary, and a few other people, and those were the initial meetings of the two organizations getting together and starting to come up with a game plan to find a site and whatnot. So a couple of the members from the new Silverdale Sunrise Rotary Club were in attendance, and they approached me, knowing that I had been in Rotary for a while, and asked me if I'd like to come to a meeting, come to breakfast, and maybe hook up with the club again, which was a spin-off of the East Bremerton Club. So I knew a lot of the guys, a lot of the members there, the charter members, and that got me back into Rotary, and got me hooked up with home builders, and got me involved in the memorial. So the memorial brought me back to Rotary. Yeah.
That's where that started. We were then fortunate enough, from our initial design, we had it designed for the initial spot, was done by a firm out of Seattle, and they were not able to then pick up the second location to develop a design. But we were introduced to a gentleman named Doug Murray, who works out of Bainbridge Island and also has a practice in Paulsbo, his own home practice. And he was invited in to help with design. And, initially was unsure where Doug was coming from, or how much energy he was really wanting to put into it. But I'll tell you, he has been just a breath of fresh air. I mean, some of the ideas and concepts and designs for that site, I think, have been phenomenal, and he's just done a wonderful job. And we've got people and companies joining in to work this. Doug himself took on the task of the site design and all of the plans that went along with that in terms of elevations and everything else, and really spearheaded it. It's done a wonderful job. And not only that, but I've seen him out there shoveling dirt and so forth. So he got bitten, I guess. I mean, when you get the bug, and you need to work out there to have a full appreciation or really feel a part of it.
It's kind of this glowing sense of recognition that I feel. I personally am not a vet, but my dad was a disabled vet, and I feel that this is a tribute to my father. I'm very proud of this. I'm proud of the way the community responded and just kind of adopted the concepts that we wanted to present out here. And so I want them to feel a sense of community pride, just like everyone else has.
The Kitsap County Council for Human Rights always had an interest in veteran stuff. There's always been veterans on the council, so it always was an interest to them, and they wanted to build a memorial that would service the entire county in all the eras. And so I was at a Board of Commissioners work session about a year and a half ago, and heard them talking with the Parks Director about the efforts that Bill Wright and the Silverdale Sunrise Rotary was doing. And so it only made sense to us to connect with them and just support them in their efforts to build the memorial. And so I got a hold of Bill Wright, and we had a meeting, and pretty much said, I'll help you any way that we can, and suggested that I coordinate the dedication ceremony, for them. And he agreed and pretty much tossed the ball in our court. And actually it was rather interesting because what Bill did is he just turned it over to a group of veterans, and none of the people on the dedication committee were members of Rotary or the Home Builders Association. We were all an unexpected band of brothers when we finally got together.
Boy, some of the positives, the hours that have been volunteered. Something as simple as a wood craftsman that he and another gentleman spent 36 hours, man-hours, over the weekend, time away from family, etc., to put in a small kick railing on the boardwalk so that wheelchairs wouldn't go overboard over the side. We didn't have to ask that person to do that. Friday, it wasn't done, and Monday it was done, and that was all volunteer. And it is gorgeous. I mean, the work that's been done is gorgeous. And that is awe-inspiring, the amount of contribution that some of these individuals have put in. There's businesses and individuals that have stepped up and brought and paid their employees to go on site and work for several days to put in a foundation or a wall or a sprinkler system or whatever it may be. The countless hours of running electricity and lights, and it was donated. And there's the counterbalance.
Well, I think the people that are really driving this memorial, obviously, the FPH construction, Mike Brown, and Kerry Chamberlain in particular. And I think Kerry really is, if there's anybody who stands out as far as getting things done and getting this project where it is, it's Kerry Chamberlain.
Oh, it's a wonderful experience just to be a part of, just to be asked to be part of, and it's going real well. Just the amount of volunteers that come out and support, and it's exciting. Oh, they're just a joy to work out here, just to be a part of any aspect of it, from the concrete workers to the carpenters that have been out here, and just to the just general labor people that come out and want to support and show support and give a hand, help out. You know, I'm not a veteran, but I'm able to support the veterans that serve the country, so it doesn't measure up to what they did, but hopefully they appreciate what we're doing out here.
Yeah, he's ruthless, and he's a great guy to work for. Yeah, absolutely the best. But John Armstrong in particular, and then we've had some members of the Rotary Club stepping in whenever they can. It's tough sometimes during the day when we have these windows open and for people to drop what they're doing, but we seem to be getting it done. At least 50, I would say, businesses, construction in all phases of construction easily that have all pitched in on this thing. Everybody just helping each other every step of the way. I don't think there's ever been a harsh word exchange between any of the contractors or that. It's just a banner project for everybody.
I think the impact that it has today compared to when I started is just I've been in awe of the passion that has been put forth in this. Is that it started with our little Rotary group of just an idea, but what it's meant to the community and what we've seen people go through, and just in incredible tenderness. John Armstrong told me a story about him being up at a veterans memorial meeting, and there was a woman that had just recently lost her husband that had been in the military for years, and she wrote out a check to him and came and gave him a kiss on the cheek, and was just so appreciative that this thing was being put together. She would have a place to go and remember her husband by, and she knew that by contributing that it was something that she would be a part of, and it would be in memory of her husband. We put the word out at our office, and there's individuals that have donated and said, you know, this is in memory of my father, and incredible amounts of money of just, you know, as a legacy to him. Others have said, you know, I've had family members for generations that have been involved in the military. And so it was just like, oh my gosh, wow, it was so much bigger than just Rotary or home builders. And so that's been incredibly meaningful, and has just been what the fuel has been to just go, we have to get this done, whatever it takes.
Being one of those folks that returned not only once but twice from Vietnam, and the reception that we received, my personal feeling was that if I was ever in a position to not allow that to happen to our younger generations, that I would be working towards the project.
But I haven't really got out and walked the street and asked people. I did, however, have an interesting conversation with a gentleman that he's at one of the rest homes or assisted living facility in Silverdale, and through my mother-in-law found out about it. Well, he was a merchant marine in World War II, and basically captained a ship through that period of time. And this is very significant to him, and he made a contribution, and I actually took the emblem for the Merchant Marines down to him and showed it to him, and we talked, and he told me some stories, and that was pretty uplifting for me, and he really appreciated the fact that the Merchant Marines were included, because a lot of his men and people that he knew, you know, they lost their lives, and yet they haven't really been recognized much, and so we look at them as being just as big a part of this memorial and included in it.
The Veterans Memorial to me means it's a giving together of the community. They're starting to look at some of what I think they made the mistakes during the Vietnam War. They didn't recognize people coming back, and I think that we've learned and grown together, and we're recognizing those men and women who are serving now and coming back, and we're treating them with the respect they do.
Yeah, we get all kinds of different encounters down there. We get people who just can't get enough of it and ooh and ah, and we get people who come by and flip us, you know, static, and I mean it's gone anywhere from people donating money while we're there to one young man spit on me. So we get a little bit of everything. Yeah, we're definitely making an impact down there, and you know, 99.9% of it's really positive and constructive, but I guess we'll always have those types out there.
My father served in the Navy during World War II in Korea. My oldest brother served in Vietnam. I served for 23 years and went through the first Gulf War. I know how each of those groups were treated when they came back from their specific wars. And I believe that the Kitsap Memorial finally pays an honest tribute to the veterans that have served in all the conflicts, past and present, and I believe it's long overdue.
The people that have come by the park that are HBA people or Rotary people or just community people have just been totally excited and looking forward to, you know, this dedication and then the use of it as years to come.
I am excited about dedication. I'm nervous about dedication, obviously, because it's like anything. You want to make sure the project is done and it comes off okay. I don't want to say it's entirely like, you know, getting married, but it's not that same sense. But it is exciting, and there is a little bit of nervousness. Are things going to come together? And I'm optimistic in that regard. Everything happens for a reason, and I'm very confident it's going to be a beautiful day, and things are going to come together just fine. And if it rains, we'll get a little wet, and it'll still be a beautiful day.
Well, Bill gave me a couple of names of people to suggest to be on the committee, and we got together, and in the very beginning we decided that because the memorial was going to include all services, including the Merchant Marines, that everyone on the committee should at least represent one of those services, and that eventually evolved.
The Lions have big barbecue pits, and if the Eagles have them, the Elks, or whoever, if we can either borrow them and have them rope, what it would really be good is if the Sunshine Rotary was out there cooking. Right. Okay, that was my.
We were turned into a pretty good group of people. I really like all of them. The biggest fears in coordinating all of this were two, actually. One was that we wouldn't have the weather for it, and the keynote speaker wouldn't show. And they both happened.
Well, scheduled to speak today was Mr. John Lee, Deputy Director of the Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs. Unfortunately, Mr. Lee was stuck in Atlanta due to Hurricane Ivan.
Once we finally had our group together, one of the first things that we said to ourselves pretty much was we wanted a first-class ceremony as best that we possibly could with the resources. And one of the other things that we wanted to have was a flyby. The Navy was able to open the ceremony with a resounding roar. During the ceremony itself, one was playing Aaron Copland's Fanfare to the Common Man, which was written for those in service during World War II. But when we played that just before the American flag was raised, but there was about a minute where we actually held the flag and played the music. And what that did, it focused everybody on the flag as it was flying just before it got raised. And you know, when you saw that, it made you really think about that flag and what it meant. We wanted each of the services to have their own ceremony within the larger dedication, and that's where the service flags came in, because we were able to focus on each of the services at that time.
Committee member Emmett Godsey organized 25 to 30 veteran servicemen and women to raise all the flags, including a couple of former prisoners of war who raised the POW MIA flag.
We would now like to raise the POW MIA flag.
My name is Jim Pratt. I am
The Suquamish tribe has roots in the area that go back about 10,000 years, and so they helped us find a tribal elder who was also a veteran who did a sight blessing in both English as well as their native tongue, Lashute. We found out the night before the dedication that we lost our keynote speaker, so committee member Jerry Town took his place.
About 10 o'clock, I got a phone call from John Lee, and I thought, well, it's kind of late for him to be, a social call, but that was nice. And he says, what's the weather going to be? I said, well, it may rain, a little windy, and I noticed I wasn't getting any sympathy from him. He said,
Well, all I can say is that this has been such a textbook example, I guess, of how people who are involved in their community can pool together with virtually no game plan and pull off something that is this significant, I guess, to the county. To me, it's the most significant thing that this county will ever see. It makes me absolutely proud to be a member of Silverdale Sunrise Rotary and Home Builders Association. Absolutely. Unequivocally.
On behalf of the Kitsap County Home Builders Association, the Rotary Club of Silverdale Sunrise, and over 90 companies and 200 people who built this jewel of the park with a formula of love of country, passion for the 8 flags that stand above us, and fun. It is our distinct pleasure to hand over this sacred land, this place of honor for all veterans, and to the citizens of Kitsap County, except for the skateboarders. It is a park of the people, for the people, by the people. By the virtue of your elected position, you represent all the citizens of our county. We now place the Kitsap County Veterans Memorial in your hands for the protection and safekeeping for all perpetuity.
On behalf of the Board of County Commissioners, I would like to read a resolution. I also have a copy for the Home Builders and for the Sunrise Rotary. Whereas the men and women who have served in the United States Armed Forces did so at great risk, often going into harm's way to remote corners of the world. Whereas these veterans demonstrated to their country and its citizens with an inherent devotion to duty, with great courage, unsurpassed loyalty, unwavering honor, and for some, the ultimate sacrifice of their lives in accomplishing missions for their country. Whereas these veterans deserve recognition, honor, and praise for service to their country, regardless to whom, where, or how long they served in the United States Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, and Merchant Marines. Whereas the Silverdale Sunrise Rotary Club and the Home Builders Association of Kitsap County have, with love and gratitude, created a memorial signifying the dignity and respect that honors all veterans who have served our great country. Whereas on September 18, 2004, this memorial has become sacred ground in memory of all the veterans who have served our country now and into the future. Therefore, be it resolved that the Kitsap County Board of Commissioners, on behalf of the citizens of Kitsap County, humbly accepts this gift from the Silverdale Sunrise Rotary Club and the Home Builders Association of Kitsap County, and hereby affirm the establishment of the Kitsap County Veterans Memorial for all perpetuity, and sets forth its purpose and functions as follows: as a place of honor and dignity for veterans, as a place of contemplation for veterans, their loved ones, and the general public, as a place for special events on Memorial Day, weekend, and Veterans Day, and be it therefore resolved that this cul-de-sac at Northwest Byron Street be hereafter known as Memorial Circle. Thank you.
We're coming over, and we won't